Turkey's president rejects Russia's claim that it's buying oil from ISIS, telling Vladimir Putin to prove it. Live from CNN's world headquarters in Atlanta, I'm Lynda Kinkade. CNN Newsroom starts right now.
Tensions between Russia and Turkey. Of course, we are always willing to resort to the diplomatic language because the diplomatic language will be sufficient in order to resolve the problems in the region.
Russia insists Turkey is simply trying to protect a black market oil supply from ISIS terrorists, an accusation that Erdogan vehemently denies.
It's hard to say specifically whether the proof is there because it is a charge, it's pretty specific, but there isn't actual proof being given.
And Mr. Erdogan's response seemed pretty straightforward. Prove it, and I'll resign. If not, he thinks Mr. Putin should sit down.
We begin with the ongoing war of words between Russia and Turkey. Vladimir Putin says he has evidence that shows the shoot-down of a Russian warplane happened because Turkey wanted to protect its oil trade with ISIS. Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan denies it. Jill Dougherty joins me now from Moscow with more on all of this. Jill, we know ISIS is so strong because it has wealth from selling this oil on the black market. And now Putin claims that Turkey has been buying that oil. Is it likely he'll present proof?
Well, in a sense, he already has, because what he is saying is that there are, as he put it, industrial scale movements of oil coming from areas that are controlled by ISIS in Syria, going north across the border into Turkey. And he actually says that Russian reconnaissance, both from space and from aircraft, have shown, as he put it, cars stretching dozens of kilometers across that border and coming up into Turkey. So that is some of the proof that he's citing. Now, interestingly, President Obama has talked about that border as well, the Turkish border, but in the context more of fighters coming from Turkey down across the border into Syria to join ISIS. So you'd have to say that both the United States and Russia do agree that that border has to be closed. Otherwise, there are going to be continuing problems. In fact, the foreign minister of Russia, Sergei Lavrov, said that you could essentially uproot terrorism if you were able to close off that border.
And Jill, this, of course, is not the first time that Moscow has accused Ankara of an association with terrorists. Vladimir Putin even went further, claiming that Turkey is harboring terrorists.
Right, and don't forget that he is saying in connection with that oil, the charges about the oil, that the plane that was shot down, that Russian bomber, was shot down specifically to protect that oil operation. So these are serious charges, and it shows you some of the anger that Russia has about what they allege is going on. And I think you'd have to say that even among the United States allies, the coalition, there is increasing frustration about not closing that border.
Now, you mentioned the US president had criticized Turkey for not closing that border, but he also said that he doesn't believe that Russia would do a 180 and start hitting ISIS targets. However, he seems to be a little bit more confident that Russia could join the US coalition.
Well, certainly he feels that there is, I would say, let's say, a coming together on some of the views about Syria. You know, it hasn't been, a lot of this has not been paid attention to precisely because of the shoot down and all of the implications. But behind the scenes, the United States and Russia have been talking about Syria. And the Russians have indicated, President Putin has said that just yesterday, that there is more of an understanding of where they have to go for a political settlement. And what President Obama is saying is, look, probably President Putin is not going to pivot 180 degrees immediately, but there is more of a common understanding of what they have to do. And he is saying that he believes down the road, perhaps in the next weeks or months, perhaps, that Russia will come closer. Now, working with the coalition is another issue. I think that that is far more complicated, sharing intelligence, actually working together. But certainly working on a solution for Turkey, I should say, working on a solution for Syria does seem closer than it was.
Okay, Jill Dougherty in Moscow, we appreciate your analysis. Thank you.